Hi everyone, it's Gary Nicholson here for the Mountain Weather Information Service. This is your planning video updated on Wednesday evening, the 7th of August. Now, I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I promise there will be some better words that will appear on this outlook at some point, but not yet, because we're still stuck with poor summer weather. Low pressure very much set to stay through the next few days. A deep system coming in from the Atlantic, further heavy rain, further thundery downpours, and the risk of some further flooding in places. And temperatures as we go into early next week, nothing special either. Now, the precise detail is somewhat uncertain, but as a broad brush view of total rainfall over the next 5 days, that's until the start of Monday, it tells the story really of a good, couple of inches of rain quite widely from Wales to the Pennines to the Highlands, and the wettest spots more like 3 to 4 inches of rain, so you're between sort of 50 to 100 mil of additional rainfall on top of what we've seen in recent times. Now, the focus of this chart and a few other forecast models too has that across the south of Scotland, the north of England. That could shuffle slightly further north or south, just depending where the wraparound of fronts encircling low pressure do get to over the days ahead. Maybe less of the way of heavy rain across the far west coast of Scotland. We're not seeing the airflow steaming in off the Atlantic here, so this sort of what you might think traditionally very wet part of the world in the West Highlands is actually escaping comparatively lightly in this sort of synoptic situation. It's all basically as things just start spinning around slowly across the country as they have done in recent days and will again over this weekend. Now, Thursday is a comparative lull in between weather systems. Yes, there's still a few showers likely to be around, 1 or 2 on the heavy side, but a fair chance of some dry weather for many places, and with winds light, it's the best of a bad job for many places at the moment. Next weather system, though, is very much gearing itself up in our southwestern approaches, rain moving into Wales before the end of the day, I suspect. Let's run the sequence on then from Thursday evening onwards, and we'll take you into the weekend, then go back to the synoptic charts in a moment. So the heavy rain focusing across Wales, then overnight extending into northern England. Some very heavy falls across Ireland as well for the record as we go into the early part of Friday. Heavy falls of rain then all the way across the south of Scotland, north of England early Friday. It will move into the eastern and southeastern parts of the Highlands as the wind here is easterly as those fronts advance northwards. Heavy thundery downpours will follow after a brief drier slot, I suppose, across northern England behind the initial front, but some downpours will return through the afternoon. And as the low then just wraps itself round in a circle, there'll be just clusters of heavy thundery rain in places, even overnight, and some prolonged heavy falls. The focus shown here across sort of Dumfries and Galloway in the Lake District looks believable because the centre of the low more or less tracks up through the central part of Scotland, so the wraparound takes it into this part of the world. And through Saturday, there's just areas of downpours moving around slowly. Some places may escape for a time, others will see a real soaking. So there's Friday's chart then. It's the front that's moving northwards is the first batch of heavy rain. The next fronts and troughs that follow will give the thundery downpours later. Easterly winds to gale force across the hills on the forward side of this system. That's across the Highlands then much of the day, and those winds will be very powerful even to lower slopes as things are quite stable, so the air is forced across the hills as that easterly, and then squally gusty winds following in from the southwest later. Now, the focus of the strongest winds for Saturday looks to be across Wales and maybe the South Pennines, with progressively further northwards getting into lighter winds up to a point where you find almost very little wind at all around the centre of that low, and that's basically why the rain will just move around so slowly. It's all just encircling the centre of low pressure. Getting absolute detail is very tricky then in terms of exactly where the most prolonged heavy rain is going to be, but it's just going to spin around across many places, so you'll do very well if you stay completely dry. For Wales, rain and showers will tend to move through quicker, but they could still stream in to West Wales off the Irish Sea for much of the day. It's a complicated story then into Sunday. These areas of low pressure will have some degree of uncertainty just how they unfold later in the weekend. There may be a separate little centre of low pressure that just rotates back across the country through Sunday. Again, it's the idea of some heavy and thundery bursts of rain in places. Locally, maybe on this chart shown across the north of Scotland, you may get away with just a few showers, so it's not an absolute write-off, but if you do get underneath one of those wraparound features, then you're going to get some heavy bursts of rain for sustained sustained periods. Strongest winds look as though they're focused more across Wales again, and maybe around the west coast of Scotland if it just comes round as a north by northwesterly, and with that airflow it's then going to be feeling relatively chilly across the higher tops in Scotland. And that cool feel will really take us into the start of next week. Again, detail is very, very tricky. It's a messy chart. There's the leftovers of fronts and troughs all over the place. Showers, again, the order of the day I would have thought. The odd heavy burst is possible, and that cool air mass in place to the extent that some sleet may even fall on the highest Scottish tops, which won't be too far above freezing point at this stage. Bit of hail, rumble of thunder is still in the picture, I would have thought, in the heavier downpours, but there will be some sunny spells away from those showers. So to look at the big picture, early next week, it's an air mass that's moving in from the north-northwest with its source in Arctic regions coming across Iceland, so a chilly feel will be in place across the mountains for a day or so before things just turn back a little bit more directly toward the Atlantic. Still showery, still pressure is quite low, there'll be some sunny spells, there'll be some heavy bursts of rain around, and cloud bases will vary between showers. Now, maybe a glimmer of pressure building a touch from the southwest in the middle part of the week. I wouldn't want to promise absolute day-by-day detail, but there might just be a lull in the showers, a bit like what we're seeing through Thursday of this week, the odd day where showers are just very well scattered. But it seems a short-lived feature because low pressure off the Atlantic looks never too far away. And as we head toward the end of the week and even next weekend, more or less low pressure in charge across northern Europe, with the jet stream still very much in place, some further rain, some further showers, and no complete let-up to this poor summer weather. And that's pretty much backed up by the pressure anomaly for the week as a whole. That's through until the 20th, and it's a very familiar story. That zone of lower than average pressure, very dominant across the northern side of the British Isles, extensive across this part of the North Atlantic, basically. So that's the setup for the week. It's just an ongoing, unsettled story. There's just a glimmer on some of the longer range models toward the later part of August that pressure may try and build and things finally settle down, but it seems a long way on the horizon at the moment, so I wouldn't want to promise too much too soon. We'll see how that goes and keep you updated. For the time being, keep your waterproofs handy. Bear in mind things very wet underfoot and there'll be some localised flooding likely to be around. Keep up to date then on our social media feeds and all our forecasts updated every single day on the website. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.